Hey everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and we're going to take a look at the astrological weather forecasts for the last week of a wild, wild year, 2020. It's not a year any of us are ever going to forget, is it? And we're going to be going into the year 2021. And actually, I will be doing my yearly report in a few days. Look out for that one. It will not, I will be doing a weekly and monthly report next week for January and the first week in January, but I am going to do an annual look at 2021 in between the two of them. So that'll be in a few days, probably next weekend. So look for that too. But so we are going to go a little bit into 2021 on this weekly report today. And the main thing this week is we have a full moon at 9 degrees Cancer on Tuesday night. And we also have a couple other things going on, longer term or outer planet transits that are not super major, but do have some influence. And then there's some interesting stuff going on in the world of relationships this week too. So anyway, first thing I want to start with, the main thing is the full moon on Tuesday, but just real quickly, this Monday today, December 28th, and we're going through the third on this week for the weekly, January 3rd. Today we have Uranus squaring Pallas Athene, the asteroid, which is the second hit of this transit, a retrograde hit. So it's been going on for several months. And you can really see how this energy is actually playing out in society. Basically, Pallas really represents in many ways the principles that we really believe in. What we consider justice, what we consider proper law and order, and we'll fight for those things. And Pallas definitely has this energy behind her of really being really attached strongly to the ideals that she believes in, and things like justice and things like equality. And in particular with her, with women's equality too. She's a female warrior archetype. She's fighting for what she believes in. So when Uranus gets involved with this, and it has been for several months now and will continue to do so, what we see is those, what people are fighting for is becoming increasingly unconventional or erratic or more and more out there, more and more extreme. And that's the energy of Uranus and the way Uranus affects society. When it comes in on a social level, it can really be revolutionizing. So revolution can be very extreme in no matter which way it's turning. So that's what we're really seeing with this energy. It really is in the background. It's been in the background for several months. It will continue to be so, but kind of peaking this week because of that exact second hit. We're just increasingly erratic, unconventional, extreme positions in what we're believing in and fighting for, and especially on a social level. All right, Tuesday is the full moon in Cancer, Tuesday night at 9 degrees. And it is not only opposing the sun. Now remember, full moon means the moon's always opposite the sun. So the moon's in Cancer, the sun's in Capricorn. And the sun is actually conjunct Mercury these days, so that means the moon is also opposite Mercury. And they are in a T-square with Chiron in Aries, so there's a lot of tension. That's a highly tense aspect, a lot of tense energy pulling at us. And also sextiles Uranus, and it also trines series, the asteroid series. So there's a lot of other planets being pulled into the energy of this full moon. So let's just talk about the full moon first, in the sense of full moon in Cancer. And so that means that the ruler of the chart is the moon itself. The moon rules Cancer. So the moon is very strong in Cancer because the moon is very emotional and receptive, strong female type energy, and that's what Cancer's all about also. It is the most receptive sign. It's the nurturing sign, the sign that needs the most emotional input to feel secure. And when Cancer is feeling secure, it feels really good. And family and home are very important to Cancer. So if home and family things are going well, then Cancer is feeling secure and will actually project positive, good energy out onto everyone and everything, and will actually increase the circle of who they consider family and get nurturing from. But the issue that Cancer moon runs into in a full moon is the Capricorn sun. And the Capricorn sun is not nearly as receptive and open as the Cancer moon is. Despite also being a yin sign, a yin earth sign, Capricorn has a much more serious kind of outlook that will discount the emotional input that Cancer needs. So there will be struggle on that level, that many of us will not feel like we're getting the emotional input or support that we need right now under this full moon time. And so and we may run into figures or situations who represent that Capricorn energy, the Capricorn energy of just being kind of practical, grounded, serious, need to put aside emotion in order to make the correct decisions and stay grounded and not allow the emotions to push us away. The issue with both Capricorn and Cancer is they share that axis, the home, family versus career axis that they're on, is that they're both attached to a survival mechanism where Cancer is realizing the nurturing is needed, and Capricorn is realizing that a structure is needed. So they're batting heads on that level, and the Cancer just is very difficult for that to get the emotional support and input they need from Capricorn, which is where the moon is actually in detriment, where emotions are restricted and controlled the most. So that's where we're really, and we're going to see that played out in our relationships. It can be in particular with family on this thing, or who's who you consider family, people who are really tight to you. So you can see some real struggling going on those levels where people are not feeling support. And the problem that can devolve into in Cancer is then to start to try to manipulate people, try to move people around. People, things like jealousy, mistrust, betrayal start to come up. And the more you start to get into this game of trying to manipulate people, which is what families do really well because they know how to push each other's buttons really well, the more you drive people away from you. And so that's the paradox of the Cancer archetype, just that when they're trying to get that security and love and feel like it's slipping away, they try to control it, and therefore just drive people away even more. And then the Capricorn, meanwhile, is they pull into the Capricorn energy, and it's this colder, stoic, sobering energy. So very interesting on that level. And then you get the T square to Chiron. So this is where you can see people are feeling wounded. There's like, wounds being created. There's very raw emotion. When people know how to push your buttons, it can be painful. So that's and what that is causing, therefore, is people to have like almost a distrust in themselves into where they're trying to go next, into the image or the self that they want to become or that they're reaching for. So it kind of pulls the rug out and the confidence out from there when you're feeling that kind of energy, like, oh, I'm getting battered by those who are close to me. They've hit this wound, this raw spot, and now I'm feeling unbalanced. I'm feeling awkward. I'm feeling not confident about the person I am, where I'm going, the image I'm trying to create. So that's where that comes in. And the interesting thing about that T square is the open end of it is in Libra. So it shows that, like, partnerships and close relationships are where we can find some relief, like being able to create a rapport with someone else that we're close to and be able to get some of this stuff out. Now, what's interesting is that there is a couple things that are going to help the Cancer moon here too. Now, first off, the opposition to Mercury is a little bit tough too, because Mercury's with the sun right now in Capricorn. And when Mercury's with the sun, it is very serious-minded and is very deliberate in its decision-making process. So it's almost like basically in this full moon situation, it's an ally of the sun. It's going to once again tell the Cancer moon to calm down, get the emotions in check, and try to become more reasonable with what the decision-making process is in any given situation. So like the moon can feel a little bit ganged up on by these two, and by, and then you add the square to Chiron, and you can see right now, the emotional wounding is really, it can be really raw. But there's some interesting help here, and the first one is this really tight sextile to Uranus that the moon has, and that really means that we can actually get some really interesting insights into our own emotions and into the way we function, and really things that'll really pique our interest too, that'll excite us and want us to kind of look into that stuff. And we can learn from that, and give life an exciting quality, kind of break it out of some of that Capricorn structure, bring it some new stuff, bring it some new insight, some new phenomenon that can be downloaded into the structures of our life and make them more interesting. So that's supportive. And then the trine to Ceres too is very supportive, in the sense that Ceres is the mothering, nurturing principle of the female archetype. So the trine there shows there is some flow, there is some support coming from certain people and places when we're feeling challenged by other people and places, by our family, by our close ones, how to balance the work versus home, family life, seesaw that exists, that trying to find the right balance in that. So there is some stuff there. And so, like, yeah, that's, so it's out there to see, right now, like this, how, certain situations can, restrict us emotionally and feel like we're not getting that support. But, like, where can we find it? Where can we get some insights? Where can we find it in other places? Where can we, like, find this happy medium in between and find the balance that we need on that? And like I said, many times in this situation, between family and work issues. So Full moon. Now remember, you look at where 9 degrees Cancer and Capricorn are in your chart, and they'll fall into two houses opposite one another. And that'll tell you the axis or the houses that, this full moon is traveling through. And then any planets that you have at like 8, 9, 10 degrees, especially cardinal ones, or points that get hit by an aspect by this full moon, they will also like color the energy of that, so of the full moon and how it affects your chart. So that's what you want to do. Take a look at the houses it's in. It'll give you an idea of what part of your life this kind of stuff is coming up in. And then, like I said, any planets attached to it will also color that. So a couple other things this week I wanted to mention. The first one comes up on Wednesday and Thursday, midweek. Venus has a couple interesting aspects. The first is a square to Neptune, and the second is a conjunction to the South Node. So kind of like operating together, these three really midweek, and it's an odd mix for sure. I would think that it may bring people from the past back into your life possibly, or just like the ways of dealing with relationships, kind of like things from the past might come up with that. And, just like things like trying to figure out like how like certain relationships can be misleading to us, and that, that no matter how much we want someone to be a certain way, like we could end up waiting a long, long time for that to happen, or it may never happen. So like Venus, Neptune really can have us put on rose-colored glasses about life in general, and it can be beautiful. There can be really some beautiful moments. There can be, romantic moments with others or with life itself. It can give us a lot of artistic inspiration even, can fire up our romantic imagination. But it does set us up for the realization that, our loved ones and life itself can't live up to like the ideals perfectly that we have. And I think, people from the past, or situations from the past, or relationship energy patterns from the past will be tied in with this, like, and be kind of testing us to see, the Venus Neptune really does give like great unconditional love for others and understanding, but it also, helps us see, how far from the mark, like the ideal of relationships are when looked at in reality, and maybe help us to try to somehow resolve that. So kind of interesting on that level. I mean, and like I said, it can give us a lot of artistic inspiration. It can give us like even like beautiful moments with life itself, and the love of life itself. But it also can bring up a lot of disappointment in relationships, especially with people connected to our past. So an interesting one there midweek. And then Friday, New Year's Day, starts with a Mercury sextile Neptune, which is nice. That's a sweet thing. Just a lot of spiritual interest, mystical interest, creativity with words, being very receptive and open, very idealistic too, for sure, and what we want to talk about and communicate. And then the one last thing I really wanted to mention is actually kind of a long-term transit, like the Uranus square Pallas, except it only hits once. Jupiter is actually semi-square Neptune next weekend. On Sunday's the exact. So two kind of outer planets for sure in an aspect. But since Jupiter just went direct it's not going to retrograde back to the point where it will be more than just this one hit, this transit. So it will not be a 3-hit transit, despite being a long-term transit. But these are the two most spiritual or religious planets in the solar system, and I think like it kind of almost goes back a little bit too, like almost like when I was talking about the Venus Neptune with ideals in relationships not being able to be lived up to. Jupiter Neptune is kind of similar in this way. It shows that like the values that we have and the beliefs that we have are really kind of frustrated right now. Like, maybe some of them aren't standing the tests of these trying times, and maybe failing us, and or maybe we're just not able to put those ideas into our world in a realistic way right now. That reality is almost like, frustrating the ability for us to do that. So it's tough on that level, but yet like, and it can make you feel like you're lost, like at times, like spiritually lost maybe, or unable to like make that connection between your beliefs and values and what's going on in the world right now. But I mean, it does give like a great spiritual kind of understanding, and just like really almost on a very abstract level can help us see a lot of spirit in the world, a lot of beauty in the world. But unfortunately, it's also showing us where it's falling short in being put into action. So an interesting mix, and it kind of, like I said, it almost kind of fits in with the Venus Neptune too, because it just makes us feel like, well, we kind of want to know, we know where we want to kind of be, but right now, like reality is just not cooperating with us. So very interesting on that level. But yeah, so yeah, this is an interesting week. The full moon is definitely gonna, expose some of the, some of our weak points, or points that that are sore points that people know are buttons, basically, that certain people know how to push. So try not to retreat completely like the crab back into its shell, but try to learn the lessons, get the insights from it, from that sextile from Uranus, and then reach out to those that you still can get this nurturing from. That's the Trine to Ceres. And, try to hammer out some agreement with that strong Capricorn side. There is still that connection between Capricorn and Cancer, just trying to find that right balance between, what it may be, the work versus family or home, or just the discipline and need to be practical versus the need for emotional input, nurturing, and security. Trying to find that right balance is really what we need to work on this week. All right, like I said, on this weekend, I will do an extra blog that will be just for the looking at 2021, and that's going to be really just real big energy, just like, and it's mainly going to be the Saturn-Uranus square that's going to be going on all year, which will be the main energy we will be dealing with all year. Otherwise, the next week, we'll look at the month of January 2021, and we'll also look at the week. My email is matthuE823@gmail.com. I'm available for all kinds of readings. A lot of people like to get their predictive readings done at the beginning of the year. I always think that's a good time to do them, or at your birthday. That's another good time to do them, because it's kind of like the beginning of your year. So I'm available for them. Natal readings, children's readings, relationship charts, fixed star readings, any kinds of deeper questions that you have, elections for the right timing of an event, horary questions if you really need to know the answer to something, all kinds of readings. And classes are up and going on beginning astrology part 1. There's 5 classes available right now on Dropbox. $25 a class, $20 for students with an ID. You can take individual classes just as a lecture if you're interested. And I have classes on all the 12 zodiac signs broken up into 3 different classes. Or you can take the classes as a student and you just do them sequentially. Next class will probably be on rising signs and the cross of matter. That'll be interesting. And the classes will probably start going video really soon instead of audio. So they're available also right now just on Dropbox. I will get them on my website once I get my website republished, which will be soon. And otherwise, this is a free service, the weather forecast each week. Please spread it around. That's the best thing you can do for me. Become a follower on YouTube. It's also on Spotify, a couple other podcasts. So you can just look up Astrological Winds channel on them, and you can follow me on that too. And if you'd like to give a donation, there's people who have asked about that. Just use my email address with Zelly, and you can give me a donation there. Really appreciate all the great feedback and input I'm getting, and we've made it through another year. And, you know, it's interesting, too. I don't know if you guys noticed on the eclipse day, we had some really interesting events. It was the day they announced that the COVID vaccine was coming out. It was the day that Mitch McConnell accepted Joe Biden as the new president. And then the next day was that big snowstorm on the East Coast that was the biggest snowstorm in decades in certain areas of the accumulation of snow. So pretty interesting stuff going on. And then, you know, really interesting too on the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. A lot of people like, you know, okay, Christmas star, right? And, you know, the end of an age here and the beginning of a new age. And a lot of people telling me they're having like really deeply spiritual experiences. And even people who have had illness with the COVID or other illnesses really feeling a very deeply spiritual connection through these processes. So the second coming of what? You know, some beautiful energy. Maybe that's what we can make this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. We can make this Christmas star bring back some beautiful energy into a world that's, you know, severely wounded right now and severely divided. And maybe that's what, you know, all this is going to lead us all to realize what's more important in life and give us some kind of awakening on that level. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and love to hear from you. One more time, MATTHUE 823@gmail.com. And you have a happy 2021. And I will get that annual forecast up in a few days, and that should be a fun one to look at. All right, until then, enjoy.